are listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio, hosted by Steve Jenny and his synthetic assistant, Alex Montini, both of whom can't go into churches without vomiting.
Nocturnal Frequency Radio with your hosts, Steve and Alex.
And welcome to Nocturnal Frequency Radio. You're live exclusively on the New Visions Radio Network. And I have to say, we have quite the all-star lineup for tonight, Alex.
We do indeed.
Where are you're hiding in the background? You're awfully echoey.
Am I?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's the demons.
Is it the extra lineup?
It could be.
It could be. It could be.
So demonologists, we have demonologists, we have whores, we have everything.
We have 70s porn stars.
70s.
I'm just kidding. How you doing, man? I mean, this is. I mean, everybody knows we're all not essentially locked down, but some people are locked down.
Fine. I usually don't go anywhere anyway, so.
Yeah, you're a hermit, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I practiced social distancing before it became a thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Unless there's a burrito stand around.
Well, it's different, yeah.
Again, we're not going to worry about doing the diatribe. We're going to get right into things. Tonight we have quite the lineup. I mean, where do you start?
I don't know.
Where do we, okay. Let's start with our good friend Richard Palmisano. Welcome, Richard.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And well, it's great to have you back.
It's always great to talk to you guys and your listenership.
And can I say you sound a lot more clear than usual? I'm just kidding. Just kidding. I just had to get that out there. I'm sorry. But,
no shortage of jabs there, eh, Richard?
Well, you know, I'm used to it from you guys. Nothing new.
Nothing says I love you more than taking a quick jab at you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Our good friend Gareth Davies from our good California Mindset Podcast.
Hey guys, great to be on the show again. And as we're talking about demons, I want to remind you and our listening audience that the power of Christ compels you.
Oh man, thanks for joining us again tonight, Gareth. We always we enjoy having you on, man. Can you tell?
Pleasure.
Can you tell?
My pleasure. Always a good time to come on and talk to you guys.
Gord, are you still alive there?
I am still alive here and surviving and eager to talk about demons.
about your demons? What?
I got problems, man.
Well, he's not called Dr. Demon Gord for nothing, I
No.
guess, right?
And it's great to have our good friend Justin Villarreal on. Welcome back, Justin.
Hey, evening, and surviving the Midwest.
And you guys are getting hit pretty bad there, eh?
Yeah, apparently. I mean, I'm not seeing people falling out the buildings or anything like that. But yeah, we are. We have a pretty big hospital set up. I forget the name of the city. It's just outside of Chicago. But I mean, apparently it's that bad that they had to pretty much build a new hospital just for the overflow of patients. So, I mean, if it's a hoax, it's a pretty good hoax. There's obviously people dying. We had the first baby's death here in the state. So, I mean, I guess that's a win for us.
A win? Isn't that how Trump would say it? Hey, look at the numbers, guys.
Yeah. I wish I was here last week. I was actually getting over being sick. Not totally sure if it was the Rona itself, but it did last for about a week or so.
Oh man! Oh, you got to be
Can
careful.
I ask you something,
You got to be
Justin?
careful when you say Rona here, because I mean that's a large chain of stores here. No,
Oh, great!
just
The
kidding.
Rona guy.
Just kidding. Go ahead, Gareth.
No, I was just going to say, Justin's been on the Mindset podcast with me many times now,
Yeah.
and he sounds amazing tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
you got a new microphone or a new setup, Justin? You never sound this good on my podcast. I'm getting a little jealous.
I think once I had to set up out there, but luckily, yeah, I'm using a setup now. So
Yeah, you sound great.
yeah, that's why I try not to use the Bluetooth because it really does bring a total different quality.
He's gone professional on us.
He's going pro. Yeah.
He's come. He's come a long way, like us. From those the BTR days, right, Justin?
Yeah. Seriously, yeah, and that's changed so much since then.
Yeah.
That was a decade ago, literally a decade.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Scary that it's been that long ago, but God, how much did we ever learn from that?
And I still have your Christmas present sitting in my basement.
I was kind of wondering about that. What,
Oh my God.
Alex, do you remember Justin saying something about that? No.
Yeah, I remember.
I pick it up every time, and then I get busy, and I don't have just literally I have stacks. Last year I had old Christmas presents because I was traveling for work. That's most of the reason why I've been traveling for a handful of years now. And they literally were sitting in my office, and I went in, and I'm like, oh heck, I don't got to buy Christmas presents this year because I never gave the Christmas presents from last year. So it works out in the end. But yeah, it's been that long that we've been on the airwaves here, or the internet waves, whatever it is.
It's scary how long it's been, but it's good. It's good to keep the friendship alive. And Gareth, it's great to sort of welcome you into the family as well.
Thanks, man.
You've been a part of the show for the last couple of years, 3 years, something like that. Now
It's been a while. But think with David Farrant was the thing that got me
exactly. Yeah,
with you guys. We did was it the Dark Discussions back in the day?
Dark
when you had David
Discussions.
on?
Yeah.
And that kind of dragged me into the darkness, Nocturnal Frequency Radio.
And it's sad that David's no longer with us, but it's one of those things that it's amazing how things sort of flourish and sort of the path it takes. It's really neat. So
we're coming up. I would like to say thank you for introducing me to Gareth, because I believe it was either in February or March, somewhere between there, that I was on his show for almost a year ago. So
Was it really a year ago?
yeah,
Shit.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Wow.
And, I was just on last week, which was, we barely scratched anything. I mean, it was a lot to cover last week, but yeah, we were just on last week, so it's been that long. So I really appreciate the connection that we've always had. And I was on Xena's just last week as well. I did a little audio spot for her. So
It's been so long that Steve and I have been doing this that we both had afros and dark hair.
But that's the fun of doing this. I mean, the connections that everyone makes, and it's amazing what flourishes out of it, you know. And it's always great to have you guys back on the show, of course. So
it's because it's like-minded people talking about stuff that they're passionate about or enjoy. I mean, the discussions that we have on this show, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to talk to people at work or people in open quotes, regular life, close quotes, about the stuff that we talk about, right? Because you're going to get that look, you know, the roll of the eyes, the shake of the head, you're a bit mental, right? That look. Whereas on a show like this, we can discuss and dissect and really get into these topics in a very deep way.
I'm the guy that rolls the eyes. What are you talking about? Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it's interesting when you hear somebody out of the blue saying, "Hey, I listened to your show last night. That was really cool." It's like, what? You listened to the show? Cool. That's really neat. And I have to say, and you know, of course, with Gord, who's a mainstay of the show as well, and a part of the paranormal group. You know, and of course, glad to have you back on, Gord.
Who are you guys again?
And this is why I enjoy having Gord on.
Can I order a pizza?
And Richard's been on the show. I don't know how many times. Richard, over the past 10 years, at least.
Let's do it.
I remember when you did some of your first shows, I was working night shift, walking around at work with my phone,
yeah,
hoping I wasn't going to get caught by the boss.
Yeah, those are always the great interviews. I remember being on a show. I'm sure you were on that show too. What is it? I don't want to say it, but I'll give it a props. I don't care. X-Zone. And I remember the same thing, being on my phone and him
X-Zone.
like total X-Zone.
Is
Rob McConnell.
Is that X-Zone? Is that the podcast about divorced people?
No. X-Zone. Yeah, exactly.
That was a joke.
X-Zone is, you know, a paranormal sort of thing out of Canada here. But I know it's well known. I mean, he's had quite a lot of guests on, well-known guests, and I was a guest on a show one time, and he totally tried to bash me, and it didn't go over too well for him. But oh well, you know. I mean, you know.
So did he like invite you on to kind of set you up,
more or less, yes.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. When you're dealing with the paranormal, that's the way it goes. You got to deal with that, right? And you got to expect it. But I mean, we're here all for a common sort of goal tonight, and I know I want to get the biggest reaction out of Gord, because I know demons.
Big fan.
I heard on through the grapevine that demons give Gord a hard on.
Hold that for later.
Well, okay, so let me ask Gord. I'm going to ask Gord right away. I'm going to get it out of the way. Gord, demons, what does it mean to you? The word, what does it mean to you?
In general, a aged-old ghost story that just won't go away ever since Hollywood captured it. Like, I have been paranormal investigating for over 15 years, multiple locations. Not once have I ever encountered anything that classified as a malevolent evil spirit. You know, what I think happened was way back when, in the Dark Ages, when humans were stupid and gullible, because wanted to kill.
You say that like they're not stupid and gullible now.
Yeah. You got me! But I think the word demon was invented as a tool by the church at the time, which basically was in charge, to that if something unexplained, it scared the people, and they were convinced that it was evil, so they had to come to church to be saved. And that's just kind of evolved over time. And then once we got, into writing horror fiction and whatnot, we took that concept of demon and made it a servant of Satan with outworldly powers that could dominate and levitate and speak languages and float and can be chased away by a dude in his pajamas going, "Hey, stop that. Jesus said you're bad. Go home." And the demon just goes, "Okay."
Very well put.
And I want to get everyone's take. Gareth, I want to get your take on your stand on demons.
Well, it stands in regard to
your feelings, your overall thoughts about the whole structure, and
no, I think it's great. I love it. I think it's fascinating. When you see these reports of people who are their homes or wherever there's some kind of negative infestation. I mean, it's great. It's not for them, obviously. For them, it's a nightmare. But
unless it's a succubus.
From the outside looking in, it's fascinating, right? It truly is fascinating. I feel like historical context, right? You go back. I mean, every culture has had some form of negative entity, right? Whether it's called a demon or something else. Christianity is the angels and the demons. The demons are fallen angels, from the great war between heaven and earth. That's in the mythology. I don't really subscribe to that idea. I know a lot of people do. I do not. But the idea of a negative entity, some conscious entity that has never lived, that has never had corporeal form, that has never walked the earth, but is negative and is in some way able to bleed into our reality and interact with us in some way. I find that completely fascinating.
Justin, I want to ask you, but I'm going to wait. You're the grand finale. I'm going to ask Richard first. Richard, go ahead.
For me, it's hard to explain because we don't have the language to explain what these are. We call them demonic or demons, but I don't know if that's the proper description. They're negative. They don't like us, whatever they are. I've been paranormal research for 41 years, and to tell you how rare this is, I've run into two. One wanted me dead, the first one I met. The second one I encountered couldn't care whether I was there or not. It was working in the background. And the only reason we knew it was there is because we have a photograph of it. So, why they're here, what they're doing, what their agenda is, I really don't know. But they can be nasty, and like I said, they don't like us. It's I don't know if it's a hate. For example, the first one we encountered did a lot of damage. Did a lot of damage to the family we tried to help. Did a lot of damage to the team, and then when we did go to the church, it created an enormous amount of damage to the church. So, what they are, or if they're fallen angels or if they're from another dimension, I mean, we really don't know, and this is why we study these things. Maybe we'll find out. But that's sort of my take on it.
Justin, you're on the stage.
Yeah, I got stage fright.
Stage fright.
No, I think everyone pretty much brings the overall, idea that we have of them to the forefront, because that's kind of what it has been, at least for the last 1,000 years or so. And it really wasn't until recently, until modern psychology, that we kind of started to look into these ideas. And I mean, we do have some allegories or analogies, I should say, that most mental illness can be not attributed to demons, but could have been labeled as demonic in some sense, given that perspective, on certain experiences people were having. So, maybe like a young girl was having some, issue at that time, whatever that could be, and people, 400 years ago were, saying demons. So not only do we have some, I guess, not hardcore evidence, but we have history and some contact in some sense to something that was going on. But we also have the flip side to where we understand that history, as well as maybe some actual organic explanations to what demons are. In this case, psychological. So it's a kind of a double-edged sword, overall. And me personally, I was brought up in the Catholic, Christian, Judeo-Christian kind of belief. So originally, that was my perspective on it. It wasn't until I kind of dealt with other philosophies and even dealing with trying to conjure demons up myself that it's kind of changed my perspective. And I'm not saying that I've accomplished that because, excuse me. Oh my God, we're all going to get it now. Excuse me. Not that they aren't real because I did them. It's just I haven't practiced enough to go that far. And maybe one of these days I will do some more work in the Enochian workbook and some other material that's out there to really delve into that. But so far we do have a lot of information out there that kind of helps explain these things. And I think part of it, that the problem is us not being totally educated in those things. Like even take, for instance, the idea where demons came from. In some beliefs, demons are just familiars. That's all they are. In some aspects, they're literally aspects of ourselves that manifest into actual demons, because essentially it's something working from inside of us out. A lot of possession really is something ideally that connects the demon to you for whatever that may be. And just to put out there, possessions like the mythos would be, these are not all demons that do these things. Most demons that do possessions are lesser demons in that sense. So we're not dealing with like Azazel and all these other types of demons that are out there that are kind of hierarchy. And that's a whole thing in itself to understand, our hierarchies and stuff like that based off philosophies. But the origins of demons is not necessarily maleficent in any way. It's more or less where we kind of use them to help us. These are like kind of energies that we called upon or tried to consult for different reasons, or in some cases they were negative in some aspects. So I think the biggest aspect to even this discussion in general is our overall perspective on it. And one thing, because we can get in all sorts of things, but one thing I want to take, if we are dealing with such things, even though I myself may come off as skeptical and kind of can show those sides, if we're dealing with such things, one note that I've understood is then we must use that same belief to counteract with that. So if we're dealing with Christian demons, we most definitely need to use the Bible and, prayers of some sort of those things. For whatever reasons, those work. And that's kind of where we're at, is why certain things work, why do they exist, and whatnot. But we do have some sort of understanding if we really took the time to kind of look at it and not go the Zach Baggins route and call things demons and whatnot. There really is a base, and there are some things to take caution to.
I'm going to ask Alex too. Alex, go ahead.
You want to really ask me?
Yeah, well, I just did.
Well, from what I've never experienced any demons throughout, and it's not like I've gone out investigating extensively like some of you guys, like even you, Steve and Richard, and even Gord. But for me, it's more of I have to wait and see kind of deal. I mean, I don't necessarily exclude the possibility of demons existing, but I also don't necessarily believe it, at least not in its current form as a religious sort of connotation, right? Do I believe that there's a possibility of negative energies out there, or negative entities? Sure. I don't think it's necessarily demons from the Bible or any sort of religion, but I don't know. I'd have to see it to believe it, sort of thing.
Now, even if you did see it, do you think you'd believe it? That's the thing.
If I saw it, I'd most definitely believe it.
You see what, though?
Demons.
Yeah, what do the demons look like, man?
Well, that's just it. We don't really know, right?
Yeah, we don't.
No,
even
that's
our
the
idea
thing.
of demons came from paintings. Some ideas came from Plato. I mean, literally, the majority of our understanding of demons came from stories, literature, and that's the basis of that. That's something to take away from that alone. Is just our understanding is fiction.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Go for it.
So let's just say it's pure hypothetical here. You're out there investigating, and you're investigating a family that has some pretty severe phenomena going on, and you go and investigate, and maybe you witness some of this phenomena. Maybe you even record it on your, audio or video or whatever. At what point does the switch flip where in your mind you're like, there's something demonic going on here?
Who wants to take that one?
I'll take it.
Go for it, Richard. Go for it.
And I can only talk about my personal experience. We were called out to help a family. It was some people I knew, but it wasn't a team I had worked with before. And they said, "Well, we've got a haunting. You want to come and look? You want some fresh eyes?" I said, "Sure." And I went out and had a look. Over the course of the evening, 6-7 hours, it looked like, to me, a typical haunting. And typical haunting, shadows, noises, whispers, you can't make out what they're saying, things like that. I mean, I've seen it dozens of times. And I said, well, it just looks like a typical haunting. And called it a night, went our own ways. It was the second time we went down there. They said, well, we're going back. You want to come? I said, sure, why not? So we went back. And it was like an ambush. And all I can tell you is I did see this thing. And it looks... You know what? This thing looked like... the only way I can describe it is like Batman. And it was large. It was black. The typical pictures you see of a demonic entity. And I'm not talking the thing with the horns and the pitchfork. But all I can say is it looked like Batman.
Well,
you
saw this in physical space. This was not like a...
You know what? I can't see I saw it in physical space because at that moment, I was seeing it in It's hard to describe, and this is what I described at the church. It was almost like watching a film reel with sections cut out. So it was, that jerky motion. It was making me sick. It was making me dizzy because... It was like I was going in and out of some kind of a time frame where I'm about as psychic as a stick. And I had a medium there. And I would say, it's right there. And it's almost like I was drunk. And I said, it's right there. And then she goes, oh my God, it's right there. And then she was seeing it like 2-3 seconds after I would see it.
So it was affecting your perception of reality, as if you were in another. You're like I'm going to use this not to say that you were drunk, but it was like you were drunk or under the influence of something. And I'm not implying that you were. I'm just saying in regard to how that kind of blurs your interaction with reality functioning around you.
Exactly. I'm not a drinker anyways, and I don't do drugs. So, and I would never certainly do anything like that.
Right.
During or before an investigation. But it's the only analogy I can give to explain what I was feeling.
So it was affecting your senses then. How your five senses were perceiving reality, whatever this thing was, if it was a thing, it was affecting your perceptions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was the sensation was so surreal that I was becoming my stomach was becoming upset. I felt nauseous, dizzy.
Now, was this only affecting you, or others around you?
Just me. Just me, and I don't understand why it was just me. It was affecting the others in different ways. One became so terrified by this thing. She had to. She left. She ran out of the building. She left the building. She just said, "I can't." It's. I can't remember the words she used. I mean, we're going back. I don't know, 15 years maybe. But it just terrified her so much that she had to get out of the building.
Now, had the residents, the people who actually live in the property, had they experienced this like before you guys had arrived? How, did they experience something that was similar to what you experienced, or?
Well, that's the funny thing is they were having a hard time with them, and this is through the research. This is what I discovered with this thing is demonic entities, whatever their agenda is, whatever they're doing, they use a hierarchy within the dead.
Yeah.
So spirits or ghosts or whatever you want to call them, there's people are people, right? If you were a good guy in life, you're a good guy in death. If you were a bad person and you did the wrong things in life, well, you're the same way in death. So demons, from what I'm starting to understand, is they will connect with those spirits and use them, sort of like a defensive team. So when people like us come in and to investigate, those are the individuals you're going to run into first. And if they can't scare you away, then the boss is going to come and deal with you. And that's what happened that evening, because the family was dealing with these other spirits that were causing all kinds of trouble. And when we got involved, that's when this thing came.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever figure out a source? Because there's always a reason. At least if it's even something that's manifested itself, there's at least some source or connection to something that would have, I guess, anchored itself to the house, a family member, or anything like that.
Right. The spirits were anchored to the house, but I think this thing was anchored to the family.
Okay.
And because it devastated the family to the point where the parents died, and the kids were disrupted, and it was a horrendous thing. I mean, I went to the church. It was the oldest church in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It'd been there for 130 years, and the funny thing is, I'm Catholic, and this was a Protestant church, and I wasn't, this thing was bothering me. It was following us to our houses and everything else, and creating all kinds of problems for us, meaning the team and myself. And I was driving down the street, and I didn't even realize what kind of church this was. I just saw the sign on the side of the grass there, and it said, "Who's going to save you?" And I saw the church, and I pulled over, and I went inside. I talked to the pastor, and I told him some of the things that happened, some of the things I described to you, and he said, "Well, I know an exorcist. We're going to get a hold of the guy, and he's going to talk with you." And I said, "Great." And he said, "Do you want to pray?" I said, "Okay." So we did a prayer. And I felt a bit better. I got in the car and I went home. And I figured, okay, this guy's going to call me. And I got up the next day. I went over to the corner store. I got some milk and a newspaper. And right on the front page of the newspaper, the guy burnt his church down.
Jeez.
Yeah. And they knew it was arson. He did it. But they never said why. But the church, they wanted to charge him with arson. But the church said no. And they hid him away. They took him out and hid the pastor away so he wouldn't be charged. Mm-hmm. They refused to build, even though there's a grave site, an old grave site there. They refused to rebuild. They said, no, here the city can have the property. We don't want it anymore.
And we could confirm all this if we really want us to look into that.
Oh, absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Richard, is that the Mimico area?
That was the Mimico fire, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, right on Lakeshore. Yeah. Or right on Royal York by the Mimico GO station there.
Okay.
I remember that.
See, now the issue that I have here is I don't doubt the phenomena, right? The phenomena is real, but the phenomena is the effect, not the cause. But we bring a lot of baggage with us as we witness the effect, right? We witness the effect, and then the baggage that we bring with us, we try to extend it out and extrapolate from the effect to the cause, and we start bringing whatever we believe, because everyone has a different perspective on how reality functions. I mean, it's mostly the same, but everyone has their own different flavor based on culture and upbringing and yada yada. So we see the effect, and then we start extrapolating from the effect based on our own belief system on how reality functions as to what's causing it. And we might get it right, but I think mostly we get it very, very, very wrong.
Of course, we don't really know. We really don't know.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're all in a scenario where, look, we've heard the stories. Some of us have looked into the situation where most people just sit there and accept the scenario and think, well, look at all demons. Okay. Is it a scare tactic? Is it something to make you adhere to the fact that, a control mechanism, if you will?
Sure.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think?
Well,
I mean, is it something to control you, to scare you into yielding?
Once again, we're witnessing the effect, right? We're seeing the phenomena, and the phenomena that we witness and that we experience is real, right? We cannot deny that what our senses are telling us and what multiple people are experiencing is real. So the phenomena, the effect, is real, but the cause of that effect, that's where our worldview comes into play, and we start adding pieces to the puzzle from our own perspective on how reality functions. Mm-hmm. And the pieces that we add might not be accurate. In fact, they're probably not.
Yeah, in this case, we could, say that, it was some mental illness, I guess. Instead of calling it demon.
Well, the story that Richard just related, right? Now, I believe everything he said.
Yeah.
Not for 1 second do I think that he's manufacturing anything. I think he's being 100% truthful, right? I don't discount what he said for a second. But he's bringing a lot of personal baggage and belief systems to the event.
True.
Tying in the church burning down to the demonic manifestation.
Yes.
Now don't get me wrong. That might be completely accurate. It might be totally true, but in reality, it's probably a separate event.
Yeah.
That, based on worldview,
coincidence,
has been tied to the event itself.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could be completely wrong. But from my perspective, that's the way it looks.
And I mean, when you look at a scenario such as it's always seemingly something that seems to be very dreadful, very negative. Something, when we look at demons throughout history, they've always been tied to something very negative, if you will. Mm-hmm. Never. How often positive? Really? Never. Really?
It would be older.
That's why they're demons.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're demons. That's why we're made to believe that it's demonic. I can't count the amount of times that I've been contacted by somebody explaining to me that they have some sort of demonic entity or activity happening in their home. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Gord, I know I passed one off to you guys, and I know you guys looked into it. I mean, did you sort of want to get into that a little bit? You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I remember the wait, which one?
Which one? I think it was a couple, a gay couple or something like that. I don't know.
So it was presented to us as a demonic haunting. So two of us on my team at the time were very, very excited, as we're intrigued, I guess is the best way to play quest for demonic spirits, if you will. So it was about 3 hours away, so we all drove out there, and newly married couple living in an older kind of home, and there was quite an age difference between both partners. The younger one seemed really creeped out and scared, so we're like, this is interesting. So we investigate the home, and as we're investigating the home, we really detected nothing paranormal. However, there was a lot of creaks and groans when you walked on the floor, and the DVD movie cabinet was full of modern-day ghost story horror movies. So we tried our best, like all of us do when we do investigations at people's homes. You're always respectful. You don't want to say, look, you suck. But we just explained that we really didn't find anything. It does seem to be an older kind of house, so it's got creaks and groans. And everything was pretty much explanatory if you took the time to see it. But whereas Hollywood craves the demonic evil entity in horror movies, makes for good jumps. Now you put that against someone that's not really resilient against horror movies. You're going to watch it in the dark to get all scared. Then they're going to go to bed, and they're going to start dreaming about it because it's still on their mind. And every shadow, bump in the night, it's an old house. It creaks, it groans. You're going to associate that with demonic, and that's kind of...
That's a totally different story too. I mean, the sort of craving, if you will, for sort of demonic inspired stories when it comes to TV shows. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I know, Justin, you're jumping on the bit there. You want to say something?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm surprised you heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you cut off a little bit, Justin. Uh-oh.
We lose him at the big moment?
I think we lost Justin. I think we lost Justin.
Testing.
There you go, buddy. There you go. You're back. You're live. You're live.
On Skype, I mute myself on my mixer. I want to say is I wanted to piggyback off what Garrett was saying earlier, because you mentioned right when we were segueing into Gord's situation, and overall the experience that they're having already has that negative connotation. But we have to, and even us as, I guess, investigators, influencers, enthusiasts, being involved in song, do have to be careful in how we label such things, because sure, demons have that negative connotation, and we're already implying that some of us, who deal with it have already implied with that's already a negative entity. It's a demon. And even in that idea alone, that's only a fairly recent understanding of demons to have that negative connection to it, which is, back again to just a Jewish, Judeo-Christian. Now, of course, those are all different in themselves on how they deal with demons. We have the fallen angels for the Christian point of view. We technically have the same idea in the Jewish understanding, but they're more, you can call upon them. It's not necessarily a bad thing to consult with them. But before that, In some aspects, demons were just spirits. The idea of them were like that spirit is a demon, because it exists. It exists in that ethereal world that we're not part of. So, I mean, even in itself, just this labeling of it as right away Christian point of view is wrong, because demons are not even, Christian in some sense. There's other ideas of what a demon could be, like a jinn. That already has a double meaning to it, because we understand that jinns and some understanding is like, okay, it grants us wishes to that watered down perspective. But really a jinn is not necessarily a negative spirit overall. And now there's movies out there like jinn's this demon. It was just an elemental spirit that people called upon every now and then, ideally to consult with it, but I'm sure there's some aspects that lead to someone having a negative experience and it turned into the jinn as this evil thing. Of course, add Roman influence, Greek influence, we see what it is now. But we really do, when dealing with this, have to have a more cleaner slate at dealing with such cases. Even when I myself deal with people who just claim basic things. Oh, we have poltergeist activity because they label it themselves as a pen dropping, or because they took it upon themselves to do their own recordings and they were doing it by a fan, like a vent, from a heating system, and you could hear it buzzing in the background, and they're like, this is something weird, and you're like, I'm sorry, that's just the fan blowing because you did it in this corner and it echoed,
And when you tell them that, Justin, you look like you are that demonic freak with 3 heads, right?
Personally, I've had people get other teams to come in and validate their claims just because I've experienced that totally, but when dealing with it, we ourselves being involved in how we do it have to have that more objective perspective on it. We can't just be like, demons are, Pazzazu, they're which is the Exorcist demon. They're not necessarily that, and it shouldn't be that right away because we're already in that sense inflating that paranoia, I guess. If we're already, yes, it's a demon, this is what you're dealing with. And personally, for me, I try to stray away from that, not in a sense where I negate their experience as what Gareth was even mentioning, that's real, but just enough so I can be like, what could be the causes of it? That's why I was more interested in that aspect, because in most of my cases that I've ever dealt with, and people seeing the most extreme, which for me would be even people consider them demons, shadow people. They have been in stressful situations already. There's already been something that has happened that initiated that hysteria, in a sense, that mania, to what they're already experiencing. And that's what I'm always looking for, is what is the cause of this? Because it could be someone just having an episode, and it's a possibility that if someone's dealing with something themselves, that, let's say, darkness in them could attract some negative entities, but you can't just jump to that right away, and as well as have that perspective when you're going into such things.
When you're investigating and you're interacting with a supposed intelligent entity, and it's acting in a very negative way, surely whatever your belief system is, let's just say that you're Catholic, and you're interacting with this entity. At what point does the entity start mirroring your faith and your worldview and acting the way that you think it should act? Yes. Whereas if you were a Jew or a Muslim or insert religious belief here, and you're in that same scenario, interacting with this apparently intelligent entity that's displaying negative behavior, but based on your belief system, the entity will then mirror what your expectations.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's the problem when you approach it from whatever religious standpoint you are You're a part of if you are practicing a certain religion. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think you, and I'm going to ask Richard in a few seconds here. That is the problem. I mean, when you approach it from a religious standpoint, whatever you are, it's a crutch, if you will. You know, you are really.
Not so, it's a, whatever this thing is that you're interacting with. It somehow is mirroring your belief system. In other words, it's acting the way you expect it to act.
Yeah.
Right. So I really want to meet like an atheist ghost hunter who is
Alex. His name's Alex. What are you talking about? His name's Alex.
With a demon or a negative entity,
like
and then to like see how the demon reacts. If you know what I mean.
But I mean that's
fascinating.
That's the issue. That's the issue. When depending on whatever religious standpoint you are, whatever you follow, if you are following something religiously,
right?
That's your approach. I mean, that's how you're going to approach it. And that's how many people in the Western world, obviously, what are we going to say? 90% of it is Christian.
Yeah.
You know, so they're going to take that standpoint. I mean, I don't know how many people I've had to deal with in the past who have gone into these locations and claiming that they've crossed a demonic sort of entity, if you will, and claiming it to the owners and having the owners in an uproar, ready to move out of their house because they have a demon in their house, according to that person that's in there investigating it. It's just absolutely absurd. It's ridiculous.
It's not absurd because the effects that they're experiencing, the phenomena that they're experiencing, is very real.
Oh, absolutely. Right? But I mean, for you to tell them real, that it's demonic is a whole different ball game.
But they're adding that label to it.
Exactly.
Layer almost.
Yeah. But the phenomena they're experiencing is real.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the people that are experiencing it are totally naive to it. They're frightened. And they're looking for some sort of help. But when you come in there and tell them it's something demonic when you really don't know, it's a totally different story.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I see what you mean.
I mean, you're treading on thin water when you do shit like that.
You're bringing your baggage to the.
We would seriously. We would have to have someone who has never experienced or had a religious experience or a spiritual experience, and who wasn't in contact with any religion. There are some cultures out there that don't necessarily have a religion, so to say. Maybe it's more of like an earthy spiritualism, but not necessarily like, oh yeah, you do wrong, you're going to heaven, how these elementals exist, that we would have to get someone there. Because even some of us going in there is, because I consider myself, if anything, agnostic, for the most part. I have a lot of anchors to my Christian upbringing. So, I mean, me, myself, it'd be like if we run into a situation, as much as I've learned to kind of be objective on certain things, I would have in the back of my head, and I'm like, this could be a demon, and that would be. So even in the case of hauntings, I would prefer to find someone who has never experienced or understand what a haunting is, in the sense, whatever that may be, and go into such places and see what happens ideally, and wonder if part of it is really just our layering, our personal layering on whatever environment that may be. But that would be an interesting experiment to further validate somebody's experiences, to do the best we can at someone who kind of has a clean slate of like a perspective on spiritualism.
Or Instagram, Nocturnal Frequency Radio, and that's about it. We'll be right back with more on demons and more. You're listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here live exclusively on the New Visions Radio Network. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You can find the show on all major podcasting services such as iTunes, Stitcher, and so on. Or you can go directly to the main Mindset website. That's www.mindsetcentral.com. Check out the Mindset Podcast. Bring your curiosity, your opinions, and a sense of humor. And remember that some worldviews are stranger than others.
And welcome back to Nocturnal Frequency Radio, live here exclusively on the New Visions Radio Network. Okay, hold on. Okay, we're live here, guys. Richard has a question.
What do you guys think of Agenda 21 from the UN?
I have no idea. I think Agenda 20 was probably better.
All right, so go find out about Agenda 21 because you're already signed up for it.
Yeah, I know.
And as much as I don't like Trump, I think he's one of the few people that is the sort of the monkey wrench in the machinery, because he really doesn't like the UN.
Yeah.
No. And I think what Justin Trudeau tried with this virus by taking the Emergencies Act and militarizing Canada got pulled away from him because he's got a minority government. Yeah. So between that and Trump throwing the flies in the ointment, that's setting the UN Agenda 21 back.
God damn those demons.
I totally agree with Richard. I think that the fact that the media hates Trump and politicians hate Trump lets me know that he's rubbing people the wrong way and pushing buttons, yeah. which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you had Bernie Sanders in there,
forget about it.
It would not work in the U.S. It wouldn't work.
No matter what, I think Trump is still. When I saw him do the conferences recently, he had no idea what's going on. He's literally talking from his ass about everything.
Whoever his handlers are.
And it's true, but given what's going on and given his act on other things, I would expect certain things already out of him if he really was trying to battle the deep state and stuff like that, because he's part of it. I mean, unless he went through his whole life doing the things he's done.
But is he though, Justin? Is he really a part of the deep state, or is he is he against it? I mean, this is what amazes me about it.
Maybe on the surface.
Are we on the air right now?
Yeah, we're on the air.
What happened to the fucking demon shit, man?
This is very demonic, man.
I thought we were talking demons, and I thought we were talking off the air about fucking bullshit.
Here, you want to talk demons?
Yes.
Okay, let's merge the two conversations we were having.
Well, let's do it. Yeah.
Let's merge the two. Here, I'll give you a great example of demonic and UN Agenda 21.
There you go.
So if you look into, and now don't get me wrong, I'm not a religious guy because I go to church for two reasons: weddings.
You've been casted out.
Funerals, weddings and funerals, right? But doing research into this, just it could be laughable, it could be scary, whatever you make it. But if you look at prophecy from the Bible, from Daniel, for example, he says the Antichrist is going to use a term: safety and security. Mm-hmm. And that is the motto from the United Nations in Agenda 21. The other thing is, he's going to say the Antichrist has no power of its own, but will wield all the power in the world. Who's the only person on the planet who has nothing but wields all the power? That would be the head of the United Nations under Agenda 21 in a new world order, where that person has taken away your sovereignty and has a one world government.
Yeah, so, but then again, and I'm playing devil's advocate here a little bit, Richard, so don't get mad at me.
No. Like I said, it's either laughable or it's scary. It's
but
whatever.
then
you
again,
take away,
you know,
right?
passages from the Bible can
Yeah.
be twisted and turned.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
You can make it fit anything.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Absolutely.
it's like the Nostradamus' quatrains.
Exactly, quatrains. Same thing.
Where he's forecasting, and you can twist and turn those things to fit any scenario that pops into your head. So using the
Don't
Bible,
tell George
to say
Noy
what
that.
the Bible says, I mean, it's meaningless.
No, it was just a fun fact, or
Well,
a fun anecdote, right? I mean, I was trying to merge the two. You don't have to take me too serious, eh? Take it easy. I was just, I was trying to merge the two topics here.
Got it.
No, I will
Gareth,
say I
you have to
somewhat agree
remember.
with
You have to remember. Think 70s porn star. Sorry, go
Take
ahead.
it easy, burrito boy.
Hey, that wasn't me. That was Steve.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, they were starting to rub off, I think.
I think we should somewhat take the Bible's somewhat seriously, because the majority, as we noted, that the majority of people are Christian, and even if let's say it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, there is something there, because on other layers, when you look at things, the amount of people who are in office or whatever, higher levels who consider themselves Christian, you have to look at maybe the opposite of, like, for equal reaction, there's an opposite reaction, essentially. So if there's that many people in Christianity that exist in, say, some sort of organization, that same amount of people exist in that organization as well. That could be whatever, Luciferians or whatever, So there, in some aspects, when we look at those types of things, we should take some, because of what I've found when I take a look at these ancient understandings. I'm not any scholar or anything, but there are a lot of correlations to things that happened during that time period, and certain things that happened. There's certain things you look between the lines and you kind of see. That's the only way I can explain that. And of course, to easily even say it, the Bible is not made for just one way to perceive it. It's literally made for a literal sense and a metaphorical sense. So you got to be able to understand things on those two levels, because things are not totally literal. There's when they talk about certain animals and even in demons, maybe, and so those are more metaphorical for maybe even a person or a country. In a sense,
Right.
So you have to understand that in a sense.
Let me sort of, I don't want to say the word dumb this down a bit, but
Great.
Let's be on the level here, okay? Out of honesty, all honesty here, what do you think is the perfect explanation for a demon, if you will?
I don't think there is one.
Exactly.
No.
I mean, what do you think is what action or reaction or event would you say is the closest thing to being demonic?
It's a negative.
Well, yeah, it's a negative,
right?
yeah.
And that's it. There you go.
Yeah, but I've met ghosts, dead individuals.
Yeah, but see, you don't
are dark.
But I hear you, Richard. But you don't know that's. You're bringing your own baggage to it. You don't.
I'm not bringing baggage. No,
you
no,
are.
don't.
No,
No,
let me
I'm
just
not.
let me just finish my thought, and then you can come back. But think on it this way: you're interacting with something.
Yes.
And
energy,
or whatever it is, you're interacting with it, and it appears intelligent, and it tells you, "Well, I'm Joe Blow who died here 5 years ago," and you're like, "Oh, okay." And that may or may not be true. The phenomena is real. What's causing it, we simply do not know. Period. Everything that explains the phenomena, we're playing the speculation game. We're bringing our own baggage to it. Well, the ghosts are the spirits of the dead. Are they? Or is that our perception of what we're experiencing?
True. Yeah.
I agree, sure. But you have to come to some conclusion. I mean, yeah, you might be right in the sense that we absolutely do not know who or what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And I said this at the beginning of the show, is when I was asked what a demon is. I don't know if that's the right name. I don't know if we have the language.
Right.
No, not necessarily. No.
That's what I would agree with say about Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I say the same thing about Ghost. I don't think we have the right terminology for it.
No.
But go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
Well, we, as humans, we like to compartmentalize everything, right? Well, we have a poltergeist here, and this is a dark entity, and this is a shadow person, and this is a ghost, and that's a spirit. I mean, let's be honest. It's some kind of a phenomena. I don't care what you call it, and everybody's got a different name for it.
Sure.
And I think that's where it starts to get confusing and difficult to even start theorizing.
I think Gord still wants to see a demon.
Oh, I very much do. Everyone has their own opinion of what a demon is. I just want to satisfy this curiosity. Is it something, or is it merely a fairy tale that's gotten out of control?
Well, there's different ways to go about it.
I would say it's both.
Yeah.
It's both.
Yep.
It's both. It's a real phenomena, and it's a fairy tale that's gotten out of control.
Schrodinger's cat.
It's both, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Schrodinger's demon, right?
Yeah. That's really what it is.
Both dead and alive.
It's both. Yeah, it's both. It's both things. What you just said, Gord, it's both of those.
Yeah.
Would you say demons are more human than anything?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, yeah. It stems from us. That's really what it is. Because what is the purpose of a demon anyways but to cause us agony,
Mm-hmm.
And it could be the source of that, the whole thing. We just feed into it, thus creates what we are experiencing, and it's totally possible for that. So I would say it is us. And many aspects of what we see in human behavior, we said, oh, it's demonic, that's evil. Serial killers, demonic, evil, and there could be many explanations why those particular habits exist in people. But, that's already what we want to enable it, and we can, to be honest with you, because that's the closest thing we're going to get. Having schizophrenia could be a form of demon possession in that sense, and now we understand it, and we could still label it as, they're dealing with their demons. We almost even do that figuratively now. I got demons. I got baggage. I got demons.
Mm-hmm. And that's
we accept that, as normal, nomenclature for what we're experiencing with that.
And that's the thing. I mean, we have to look at historically how we've dealt with the terminology and now how it's changed. But Justin, let me ask you, what do you do when somebody emails you or calls you and say, "Look, I need you to come and help me out. I've got some demonic activity in my home"?
I would say immediately divorce her.
That's why
no, out of all seriousness, Justin.
I take it like every case. I open it up to be objective. If I can, I tell them to present some some evidence that they can gather themselves. If I can, I monitor almost all my cases remotely.
Mm.
It's been years since I've had a personal case. Maybe 6 years ago since I had such a personal case, and even then I had them pretty much just journal what they were dealing with because they thought, I think this is an evil negative spirit. They didn't call it demon yet, but that's also just a lesser term for that, And I asked them a series of questions. Usually it's an interview, what it is. Sometimes I don't even go through a full-on interview. I just need enough information from the first email that they sent me to kind of make an assessment of that. And as long as they allow to continue that, then I know what I could be dealing with before I even get to such a place, If I was and I haven't totally dealt with demon influence things just yet, besides trying to conjure them back when I was like 17 years old. And that's a discussion we can get to with some of that. But you kind of just have to be open to those ideas, which probably doesn't necessarily help the overall case. But again, what you're dealing with these people, as Gareth mentioned, it's very real, So it's a thin, a slippery slope in what you do, and I think the basic. And it's worked for me at least, and for people who dealt with it, is to at least address it in that sense. Somewhat get a remote sense of it, get as much information as you possibly can. If you need to be there, you're there, but at least acquire as much, especially in this day and age where we can share video and pics so easily, get as much as you can from them personally. And sometimes they already have that. Here's a shadow, and and you're like, okay, it's a kind of a weird blotch. All right, let's continue. But if we were to get in such a case, and I was able to understand it, if it's beyond just pictures and stuff, I mean, I would definitely handle it as if it was legit. I just have to acquire enough data to deal with it, because let's just say it's something they created, for whatever reason that is, they're connected to it, and it's a Christian background. You can't just deal with any demon in that sense, under the same light. So, I mean, you have to have a total understanding of all these things, and doing the best you can to get information from the people dealing with it is the best you're going to get.
Well, let's paint it this way. You think of a scenario of something that is totally creepy, if you will. Something that is totally unknown to you. Say, for instance, you're sleeping, and you're woken up in the middle of the night, and you're woken up to something completely unreal to you, like something you can't explain, something that the only explanation to you would be, or equating it to, being demonic unfolding before your eyes. And obviously I can't explain it, because I mean it would differ from person to person, but I mean something completely unreal unfolding before your eyes as you wake from your slumber, and the person tries to relay this to you, and of course it gets lost in translation. Then what?
I mean, the best you could do is, if they requested, head over there as much as possible and bring as much recording equipment and record everything while you're there.
Well, I mean, that's easy enough for us to say, but I mean, this person or these people, if it happened to say a couple people, are completely unrailed. They've witnessed something that is totally terrifying, and they can't explain, other than whatever it was demonic in their minds.
Yeah.
And this is, and Justin, as well as I do, this is what we have to deal with. I mean, this happens all the time, and you try to be as reasonable as possible with these people, but it doesn't matter.
It depends. Of course, I haven't dealt with anything that has, with any evidence per cases that I have that they give me this, there's something spiritual going on. A lot of times, like I said before, it usually stems from some stress and something like that. So I address those things in that manner. But if it really was in this case, I would at least try to have someone on hand that I can contact that deals with such things. Do my best with my knowledge, and I hope people who are in this field, and in my next episode, I'm going to actually bring that up, are well-rounded enough to handle these situations. Me personally, I've dealt with counseling, not me in general. I have gone to grief counseling when my father died and stuff like that, but being involved with counseling and being involved with people in that field, as well as taking psychology classes and stuff, has helped me to better deal with these situations. But not only that, I am not necessarily a practitioner. I do practice things, and I think that is part of the experiment overall, what I'm trying to accomplish personally. But I think people who are in this field, they should at least be as well versed in all things as possible to address these, because even if it was and these people requested, you're the only option they have. So you got to be almost their priest, So I have counseled people who say, my son died X amount of time ago. Here's some pictures. Here's some recording. Technically, that's me being a counselor to people dealing with it, and I have to be ready enough. And of course, they have to be trustworthy. Trust me enough to handle that information. And I appreciate the people that do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to be ready for those things. So in this case, be ready to pray. Be ready to whip out some sigils if you got to. Maybe get some, because in that same sense, because of what they're putting it on there, and not saying it's not real or anything like that.
I mean, it may not seem. It may not seem real to you, but it seems so real to Richard. Let me ask you. I mean, what do you do when you're confronted with this kind of scenario?
Well, there's all kinds of different situations you run into. I mean, people call you out for raccoons, or they call you out and it's got to be a demon. And this is brought on. This is drilled into people's heads, right? I mean, it's Zach Bacon's running around every episode looking for demonic entities. So they must be out there. They have to be, hiding in every closet. But you get out there and you have to have a level head. You don't jump to conclusions. And it's really spending time with the client, educating them, giving them options to look at, what it might be, taking the information that you're gaining through maybe electronic voice phenomena, or if you're using a trusted medium, or historical data, or whatever you're gaining, and giving them other options. I've done a lot of investigations, and there's not any one that comes to mind where I've walked away where the client wasn't satisfied, saying, you know what, it wasn't demonic, it was a previous owner, or it was something else going on.
Okay, but I mean, what if all that has been thrown aside and the people are adamant, look, I have something demonic here, and it's beyond your sort of current understanding, if you will. Where look at you yourself investigating this and trying to understand this situation, have come to the conclusion that maybe possibly this is something that might be demonic. Then what's your course of action?
Well, then you have to step up the game.
Is there somebody you call in? Is there something that right. Is there a process? What?
Right. So this is the thing is you hope that you have those resources to step the game up. I'm not an expert in this field.
Yeah.
Like I said, in 41 years, I've come across two. One didn't care about me, and the other one did. So it's extremely rare. I mean, on a scale, it would be 99.99% nothing. But it's at 0.1% that might be. And even at that, it might not be. So you have to step the game up, and hopefully you have the resources to call in people to spiritually. Now, this is the problem. What faith are they? And do you have resources to touch all faiths?
Yeah.
I don't. So, at that point, I can ask them what's your religious beliefs, and then sort of point them in that direction that you need to seek. Because I have to hand it off. I'm just no longer qualified at that point.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question / comment in regard to that when you ask them what their faith is.
Yes.
So have you noticed that depending on the faith of the people who are experiencing the phenomena,
right,
the entity or whatever it is plays along with it?
Oh, well, that's right. But what?
In other words, if it's a Muslim family, right, and they're having a negative experience, the entity will play along the lines of their belief system. If it's a Christian family, it will play along the lines of their. In other words, it senses the environment and the belief system and plays the part it's supposed to play. It's very rare that you'll have a Muslim household infested with a Christian demon.
Muslims do have their own demons.
Yes,
Exactly.
Muslims
Exactly.
do. Yes,
They
yeah.
do. But
They don't. There's no cross faith there.
Yeah.
this is
See
where
what
we
I
get
mean?
into.
No, but
See,
there's
now, I
no
was
cross
answering-
face, but there's quite a lot of similarities.
Right. Now, this is where I was just answering Steve's question. When I get into an investigation, because I'm not a religious individual, I don't bring religion into it.
Right.
It's never a question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to determine, you've said you've had these particular experiences. Now, I want to see if you're having, if I can have those experiences and what kind of data I can collect.
But
To
the
verify
people,
what's going on. The question of religion never comes into play.
but the people.
only
at the
reason I
the
brought that
household
up
might,
is because
might be
Steve-
religious.
Right, but the only reason I brought that up is because Steve said the client is adamant it's demonic.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it's beyond my capabilities with dealing. And I would only suggest, based on what their religion is, to go seek that help.
Well, yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, because obviously,
But you might be their only source, Richard. You might have to.
well,
might
yeah,
have to take on that.
yes and no, Justin. I mean, I get
Level
where
10 bad
Richard's
guy.
going. I get where Richard's going with this, and the fact is that some people may sort of, in many cases, seek religious comfort with something like this. And if there's somebody who might be able to deal with this sort of scenario, and I'm sure that there are many people within the religious sort of community that do deal with this kind of thing, that might be able to help out on their sort of scenario. I get that. And it's a tough scenario altogether. I mean, yeah, you're right, Justin. When we deal with this kind of stuff, we're sort of their last sort of line of defense, if you will.
Mm-hmm. We're actually without getting too crazy about it.
Yeah,
we're really shamans in some sense when we're doing, even if we're waving our wands of EMF reader detectors and thermometers, non-contact, infrared. We're using elements and we're using science, which is no different than understanding the ethereal part of what the world is. We just don't apply it in that sense, And we are that. Just us being there. How many times I have been to someone's house, the comfort of us being there, they don't even know if I'm not a Christian or anything like that, because ideally you shouldn't be presenting that anyways as a group, and many groups do, but you shouldn't. They just know that this guy's here and he knows what to do, and that comfort alone, even if we may not know what to do, that comfort alone already empowers that situation, kind of under that suggestion of what Gareth was saying, that alone could be played off of that. Now, to answer Garrett's thing in that sense, even though we may not know what it is, and it may just be some nameless ghoul that is doing that, we have to play along too, because what did we learn from it? The power of belief.
Yeah.
We see this though in a lot of stories. The power of belief.
No, I agree. Because I remember I was on a show with you guys. This must have been a while ago, and I forget who said it. I think it was Alex. He said that, well, how is it that some guy in a dress can walk into a haunted house with a demon, sprinkle some water everywhere, say read some stuff from a book, and the demon's like, oh no, I have to leave now. I'm scared. And he goes along and he plays along, right? When it's as if there's some form of theater going on. And the theatrical performances are not only the people who are experiencing the phenomena and the investigator. It's also the entity itself. They're playing some kind of theatrical presentation, and there are certain rules in play based on the belief system of the people who are taking part in this play, and the entity itself has to follow those rules.
Check it. Gareth is right.
Yeah.
No, you make a great point, and I agree with you. Probably 99%. I agree with that statement. It's I've seen it myself, and they do. It is a game, and it's you hit it right on the head. There's some kind of theatrics happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's with all of it. I mean, you know. But having said that, that you know, when I said 99%, that 1% is the you know, the things that come out of the left field that nobody expected. Those are the very odd things that you see in a particular haunting, or you can anticipate, you can expect things. You shouldn't, but it's human nature. You sort of do that, but it's these things that come out of left field, and you like, wow, I would have never guessed that, or I would have never even imagined that happening.
Can I ask you a question, Richard,
Sure.
on some of your cases? And how many of the cases have you interacted with an apparent intelligent haunting?
I'm going to say about 1,400.
Wow.
Well, I've been doing it a long time. I started.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, don't forget. I started my company back in 1979.
Okay.
So, you know, over 41 years. Most of my cases.
Born.
So let me piggyback on top of that then.
Okay.
Interacting with an apparently intelligent entity.
Yes.
How many times has this interaction supplied you with information that you previously were not aware of that bore out to be correct?
Well, see, I'll give you one example of this, and I use a very specific method for gaining evidence or information.
Mm-hmm.
So, a basic call for help. We'll come in as a team. We set up surveillance, audio and video surveillance. I use very, very specific control methods and very specific surveillance methods. I wrote a theory paper on social ghosts and how they communicate amongst themselves. And we use that against them when we employ our surveillance equipment, because they will communicate. And it's between that communication where we gain intelligence. And we know it's a intelligent haunting because of that interaction. So I'll give you the example is one entity will say to the other entity, call him by name George.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this name George. It means absolutely nothing to us. And then we'll bring a medium in, a trusted medium that I test myself, knows nothing about the property. We bring them in. She does her thing, and over the course of the time that she's there, she detects an individual named George.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of interesting because now I have an EVP a week ago. This week, she's detected the same individual. We don't share that information with her. And then in a particular case, and I'm talking about a very specific case that I just did, actually, the owner of the property comes to us and says, I've got a bunch of old papers that we dug out of the wall when we did a renovation. Would you like to see them? Now, this is a month after all this has occurred. And I said, absolutely, it'd be great. So we're going through all these papers, and I noticed there was some church magazines in there. And on those magazines were labels for delivery labels from the owner that had this property back in 1905 through 1907, whose name was George.
Wow.
So here's 3 separate pieces of information that tells me George is here. So I look at that as evidence.
Mm-hmm.
In a court of law, it would be, but in the paranormal field, not so much.
Oh, I agree. That's definitely evidence for sure.
So, and that's how I employ that investigation. Is I'm always looking for one piece that's going to reinforce another piece by trying to keep it quiet from the rest of the group or from the mediums.
So you had 3 separate instances, all completely unrelated to each other,
right?
All supplying the same information.
Yes.
Yeah, I would absolutely consider that as evidence.
And that's what I look for. You don't get it all the time, but that's that aha moment. It's like, this is terrific, because that's what you strive for.
Yeah.
You're always trying to prove to the client and to yourself that this is real, this is happening, and we're trying to see. I don't believe in clearing houses.
No,
you've got a ghost. I don't clear houses. I've fired mediums over this. I don't clear houses, but I try to resolve situations through mitigation, try to discuss it with them, and try to come to some conclusion where we live in harmony. Take it easy, don't scare the people here, and they won't bother you. But you have to get to that point, and the only way to get to that point is you need the intelligence of what might be there and why they're there, and what. Obviously, there's some friction between the family that's there and whatever else is existing.
Now, let me ask you guys this. I would assume that the vast majority of hauntings are residual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just echoes of the past somehow recorded in the environment or whatever the case may be. And a small minority of hauntings are intelligent. Would you guys agree with that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Guaranteed, yeah. Richard?
I have never experienced it.
Sorry, man, no.
No?
I'm sorry.
Awesome.
I'm sorry. You know?
No, tell me more, please.
All right. I'm not a big fan of the stone tape theory.
Okay.
I'm not. I mean, it's a very simplistic theory, and you think with all the smart people out here, there's not a whole lot of buttons to push to get that theory to work. And believe me, when I first started off, I signed up, man. I said, you know what, this makes a lot of sense, and I spent years on it. I'm not a big fan of it. The thing is, you have to understand what may be occurring to make us believe it's residual, right? I mean, first of all, you have to take the ego out of the equation. And when I mean ego, I mean you see a lot of people, they get an EVP, and the first thing they think of, a ghost just threatened me, man. Did you hear what he said? Or, well, that's an old phrase. It must be residual. Well, first of all, that's your ego talking, right? I wrote an article a while ago about sometimes the EVPs we capture have nothing to do with us. They don't even care we're there. They're talking to another spirit, which tells me it's not residual. It's intelligent. They communicate back and forth. The other thing is, most places are not haunted by one spirit. There's multiples, and that's the majority. I've only been to one place that I know of that's haunted by one spirit, and that's the reason I don't clear houses, is because there's multiples there. There's a balance. You're going to have good and you're going to have bad. That's the yin and yang. But when you go in to clear a place, it's like walking into a loud party that, at your house, and you come in, your kids are having a party, everybody's drinking, and you go, hey, everybody out, get out. Well, the good ones heard you. They're going to, they're polite, they're respectful, they're out. Problem is, now you have this one broody guy standing in the corner. Didn't listen. All the good ones have gone, so who's going to take care of this guy? And then there's going to be problems. And historically, if you look at it, you'll find out that what I'm saying is true. Because people that clear houses, I always get the call back. Well, it's worse now. Oh, how come? Well, we had people in and they cleared the house. Yeah, it's worse now. Well, I can't get the good ones back for you, buddy. I'm sorry.
Well, Alex, what are your thoughts on demons, if you will?
Pretty much said it earlier, but for me, it's not so much the Christian belief or the religious belief. I don't have that sort of leaning. It's more of like a negativity, for lack of a better term. And the more I think about it, like throughout the years, it's almost as if it's almost a culmination of all the negativity that occurs in the world naturally through people, because you have good and bad people, and that negativity just sort of festers and sort of becomes its own entity.
So essentially you're saying it's generated by human energy.
It's definitely fed by human energy, no doubt.
Of course.
But whether it's created is still up in the air.
I kind of want to jump off what Richard was saying about, people having to basically re-cleanse their house, even in the idea of clearing energy or giving, yourself basically cleansing yourself through whatever sage or anything like that. It's not something that's permanent, to be honest with you. It's something that's depending on what Alex just said and what we kind of hinder is about our own energy bringing things into that space, whatever that may be. So even the idea of cleansing, not necessarily, I guess, a bad idea, but it's not necessarily a foolproof idea, and that's very temporary. In it.
Well, I'd like to, I'd like to jump in on there, because if you want to do some research, and if you've got some kind of a caseload to look at, or just call other paranormal groups that do this quite often. You have these people that go in and clear houses and smudge.
Yeah.
Right. So they go in, they smudge the place, and hey, everything's cool. Have a great day. Take care, and they leave. And then I get a call.
Mm-hmm.
It's always 3 days after they did the smudging. Always 3 days after the smudging. Oh my God, it's the worst it's ever been. Yeah, of course it is. You probably just attacked a spirit that built the house with his own sweat and blood, came in, attacked him, and threw him out the door like a bouncer. And it wore off, and now he's back. Yeah, he's upset. So guess what? Now it's his turn. He wants you out of his house. You can't go around attacking entities that have a right to be there. They should move on, sure, but you have to. And this is what I mean about getting the information you need to reconcile these problems. That's what it's all about.
Not to mention that we don't have a full understanding yet of how things work on that level, and to assume that smudging or clearing will really, release the area of that energy permanently is being a little bit naive.
And it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely not.
It doesn't. Anyone who practices that and says it will, most definitely. I'm not even that involved in such things, and I already seen it enough times where you may have to do this again, or they give you options or like a checklist, like this is what you need to do so you can keep this cleansed, in that sense. But the kind of jump off what Richard was saying too is like you don't necessarily need to get. I've been in enough other people's cases and stuff where they've literally said, "Hey, we're going to share this space." They use terms like that, and we're going to continue doing what we're doing. If it's in the case of someone who's been living there, or what we find and whatever information that may be, this is the route we would take. And it's not necessarily trying to get rid of them. Even houses, they go, "We're here now. We're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to live our lives. And if you don't like it, you can stay and deal with it, and we'll figure a way." I wish I recorded enough to do. And this is what they say. And a lot of times, a neutral ground is much better than this confrontation type of thing. Yep. In short is what I'm trying to say. Yep. Even if they, let's say it doesn't work, the idea to that itself is already better than trying to be a force to reckon with.
Right. Well, it doesn't always work. But quite often it does. Most people, living or dead, are reasonable. But there's a spectrum. There's a whole spectrum. You're going to have the unreasonable, and you're going to have the downright nasty that won't move on. Or they just want to play havoc. Or they've got some agenda, or they just don't like these people. I did a case. I got called in, and they thought it was demonic. It wasn't demonic. It was just simply a guy that built the house, lived there in the 50s, died, and he was a pillar of the community. He worked in the church. He was a stand-up kind of guy. But it was the 50s. Here we are, this was back in 2010, around 2010, and it was a gay couple living in his house. They bought the house. Well, this guy's from the 50s. He was in the church. This is not tolerated. And he made it absolutely horrible for these people.
He's got to get with the times.
Right. But, prejudice, that's the way it was, man.
Yeah,
he was, right? He just didn't matter what we did. No way this is going to be tolerated. Not in his house. And they finally sold and moved, and the family moved in there. I've checked with that family. Not even a squeaky floorboard.
You see, 2 hours is not enough.
No.
It's not enough. It really isn't. It really is not enough.
And I wanted to get into black magic and
there's just so much, and I don't know about you guys, but this calls for a second part.
Oh yeah.
Are you guys up for a second part?
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to do a part 2 of this, because there's just so much information that we could share. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that, of course, and more. Let's start with Gareth, and then we'll go down the line. Gareth, get your information out there.
Hi, I'm Gareth. You guys can find
drink.
Fourth drink this evening. Hi, I know a demon. No,
he is really demonic.
You can reach me. You can find me at mindsetcentral.com. Every Sunday, I do the Mindset podcast. Justin has been on many, many times. Check it out. Hopefully, you'll like it. We discuss all kinds of weird and wonderful things: the paranormal, conspiracies, the political world, what's really going on. Check it out. Mindsetcentral.com.
Justin.
Yeah. Oh, I'm Justin.
I'm Justin.
You can find me on Twitter, LCGH, or CrazyJ82, KRAZIEJ82, or the Anonymous Radio Network.net. And if you can't find it on that, just look for Podbean, the Anonymous Radio Network there. And, of course, on Facebook.
Richard.
Yeah, I'm Richard. I got a problem. No, wait.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wrong group. Yeah, anybody can get a hold of me at richard@thesearchergroup.ca, or you can check out my website at thesearchergroup.ca. Great bunch of guys, man. I enjoyed this. Thanks.
And what's your favorite demon's name?
Boo Boo.
Boo boo.
Okay, Yogi.
Dr. Demon Gord.
I'm just here because you make me.
Oh, man.
But no, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me again. Looking forward to part 2.
And Alex?
I'm an alcoholic.
So you have to call it Demons 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yes.
Richard might take offense to that.
No, I'm good, man. Somebody said it was going to be pizza.
Pizza? Oh.
Hey, speaking of, I made some today.
All right.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to order Uber pizza.
Pizza.
Pizza. All right, guys. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight, and everybody for tuning in. I'm. Who knows? Maybe next weekend. We'll see. Next Sunday night. We'll do part 2. We'll see how things work out.
Well, it's not like we're going anywhere.
I know. Hey,
This is true. Yeah.
it's the lockdown special part 2.
We got another 30 days here in the
The
States. Well,
lockdown.
voluntarily, it's another 30 days. We'll see what that really is.
Voluntary, yeah. When's it going to become mandatory?
Well, that's when the army comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the toilet paper issue, right? Because the military, they'll bring you water and food and medicine, but they don't.
No toilet.
They're not bringing
toilet
toilet paper, man.
Yeah.
No.
No, we need toilet paper because the politicians talk a lot of shit.
I don't know if you guys have seen some of the viral videos out of the UK. Have you seen some of those viral videos of the people in the grocery stores?
It's viral, eh?
Yeah. Viral. It's viral.
Isn't that crazy that there's like a virus infecting everyone and there's viral videos?
Yeah. Oh. All right, guys. Take care and well, hey, we definitely look forward to part 2 then, I guess.
Yeah.
Electric Boogaloo.
Starring the 70s porn star, Richard Brown. Hail Satan, yes. Guys, take care, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
You guys rock. Demon blood.
Demon blood.
You are listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio, hosted by Steve Jenny and his satanic assistant, Alex Fontane, both of whom